Welcome back, Duelists. Casual Duelist here today, and I have a fantastic build for the Numerons for you. And not a lot of, hype up for it. So I'd like to give you guys the build real quick, and then we'll go ahead and discuss it like usual. So I do have one little hype bit. It's a very small engine, and I put a lot of things to make the opponent upset, like a lot of interrupts. So real quick, we're going to be using 3 copies of Ash Blossom today, 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and our obligatory 3 Numeron walls. To the spells, we've got the Called by the Grave, the 3 Forbidden Chalices, the 3 Memories of Hope, the 3 Numeron Callings, 3 Numeron Networks, a single 1-for-1, a single Terraforming, and a single Upstart. And going into the traps, I am running my 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 3 Solemn Judgments, 3 Solemn Strikes, and 3 Torrential Tributes. Literally every card in this deck that's not a Numeron is meant to be a whammy for the opponent. So lots and lots of whammies, and they're going to press their luck, so get the reference. The extra deck is going to have 2 copies number 1 Numeron Gate Ekim, 2 copies number 2 Numeron Gate Devi, 3 copies number 3 Numeron Gate Trini, and 2 copies number 4 Numeron Gate Ketvari. We're also going to use a single copy of number 100, the Numeron Dragon. We are going to use 1 number C1 Numeron Chaos Gate Sunya, and 1 number S0 Utopic Zaxel. Now this one is like, this and the original gates are sort of like obligatory. You have to play them. Otherwise this deck doesn't make any sense and you really don't have any real power moves. Going over to the links, we only had 4 today. So we got the Boral Sword because I valued him. IP Masquerena, so we can make the Boral Sword on our opponent's turn. The Nightmare Unicorn, again, we want to be able to make that during the opponent's turn and interrupt them. And my new favorite character card for this deck, the Infinite Track Fortress Megaclops. So good. But that is my deck profile for the Numerons. Yes, that was supposed to be out yesterday. Yes, something came up. Sorry about that. That doesn't mean I won't have more videos for you later on in the week. I'm going to try to keep back to the schedule. And again, we have that structure deck dropping at the end of the week, so that's going to be just great. So if you guys only came for this, I'd like to thank you for watching. If it helps you, maybe consider hitting me up with a subscription. More importantly, though, please tell your friends. Let your friends know about the channel. That type of grassroots word of mouth really works, honestly, when you're trying to grow something like this. And the one last thing, the most important one, I want you guys to have an excellent day, okay? Everybody else, let's talk about why I made the deck the way I made it today. So, real quick, Ash Blossom, yes. Very basically just one of the best generic hand traps in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think I say this every time. Let's go over the effect once. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of the following effects, as a quick effect, you may discard this card in order to negate that effect. So if your opponent tries to A, add a card from the hand or from the deck to the hand, B, special summon a monster card from the deck, or C, send a card from the deck to the graveyard, you activate the effect and it becomes none of the above. So that's fine. Effect Veiler, one of the longest running hand traps in the game. Again, we just want a quick effect, send this from our hand during the opponent's main phase, send it to the graveyard, target a face-up effect monster that they control, and negate the effects of that monster face-up until the end of the turn. So, fantastic. Ghost Ogre, a little trickier. Just like Ash, this is a once per turn. When a monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell/trap that is already face up on the field activates its effect. Quick effect, send this from the hand to the field, to the graveyard. Destroy that card on the field, and you can only use the effect once per turn. And This is particularly useful for destroying a monster that's just really pesky. There's no other way around it. If you guys remember the Blackwing deck, this is a good way to get the Whirlwinds off the field. You can get No Thung real quick because he's going to go ahead and burn you for that 800. A lot of effects that you can actually go ahead and use Ghost Ogre for. And some cards will actually state that they need to remain on the field in order for the effect to finish resolving. And in those cases, Ghost Ogre will negate the card because she's already destroyed it. So, easy peasy. Alright, we got the Numeron wall. And a pretty good paragraph. So, if you control no cards except a Numeron wall or walls, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or the field to the graveyard and activate Numeron Network, your field spell, directly from your hand or your deck. And you may use this effect once per turn. When you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, end the battle phase after the damage step. So, on the one hand, this card is great. We start the game, we have it in our hand, we summon it, we go, I'm just going to go ahead and activate the Numeron Network real quick. And then you're going to activate your Numeron Calling from your deck, and then you're going to do all of the things, guys. Another great thing is, because of how many hand traps we threw into this deck, we have a decent amount of monsters, and 1-for-1 will allow us to special summon this while it's also the only card that we're going to control. Because it doesn't actually reference the discard pile, and it doesn't go, look, you also can't have any cards in a discard pile, which may or may not have been more fair to this. But you gotta remember, there's a lot of cards that have effects that are going to wreck us too, like Ghost Ogre and Effect Veiler for sure. So, that's all fine. Additionally, it's a battle trap, okay? We take the damage once. When you take battle damage, special summon the card and end the battle phase. So, we can do that too. And it only costs us whatever one attack is. So it could be really cheap, it could be really expensive. Either way, he's sort of a battle trap similar to Battle Fader, but not as good as Battle Fader, because Battle Fader didn't let us get hit. So, maximize him at 3. Okay, the spells. The spells are a little different, but at the same time, not really. Like Call by the Grave, we understand. Better when it was at 3, okay at 1, especially with the trap lineup I have here. We've got enough kind of counter effects to where we're going to be able to utilize this and actually have it feel like it wasn't a waste going, it's just a one-of. And the purpose of that is we want to be able to play through our opponent's hand traps well. Nibiru would definitely mess this deck up like in a heartbeat because, we summon 5 monsters within about the first 5 seconds of sitting down, most turns. And Call by the Grave will allow us to do damage to a lot of hand traps. And again, I know Nibiru isn't one of them because it doesn't actually go to the discard pile before its resolution. So, the Forbidden Chalice is another great card. Haven't had to roll this one out in a couple years now. Target face a monster on the field. You do give it 400 attack points, but you also negate its effects. And one thing I've been curious about, I've been thinking about it. This would make Apollosa 400 points, right? So she can't negate anything regardless of how many monsters your opponent linked together to make it. And as a quick play, I can just go ahead, set this stuff, wait for you to summon a card, and then, boop, flip that up, and just ruin your afternoon. So, again, we only care about the negating the effects portion of this. Because that is where it's at. And that's what kind of like adds all these layers of stun and control to this Numeron OTK. So we also want to use our draw card. We need the Hope of Memories, or Memories of Hope, sorry. This lets you draw cards equal to the number of named monster, Xyz monster cards, with different names that you control now. It's really easy, especially when we go over these, because with Numeron Calling, we're going to be able to summon up to 4 of those numbered gates from the extra deck at the same time. So, Memories of Hope equals draw 4? Yeah, fantastic. Can't wait for it. Alright, so I'm going to go over the network first and then the calling, because actually this one gets you to this one. So let's just hide that in the back for a minute. So the field spell, during your main phase, you send one Numeron normal spell card that meets its activation conditions from the deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. You may only use this effect of Numeron Network once per turn. Numeron Xyz monsters you control can activate effects without having to detach materials. Now this is insane, and what it means is when we do activate calling from the deck, very similar to how Predaplant Vert Anaconda, with its 2,000 point cost, tells us that we're allowed to send polymerization or a fusion spell, fusion in quotes, from the deck to the discard, and then Predaplant Vert Anaconda's effect that you just activated becomes the remainder of the text of that fusion spell. In the same way, Numeron Network first effect is going to have us call out the calling from our deck and allow us to special summon 4 cards, and then tell you that even though we didn't properly overlay them, they can go ahead and use their effects anyway because the field spell said so. So the field spell, kind of an important card. Now the calling. If Numeron Network is in your field zone and you control no monsters, special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters with different names from the extra deck, but banish them during the end phase. You can only normal or special summon once for the rest of the turn. And that's kind of a no-brainer. One of the biggest moves here is you play between 3 and 4 of these the first time, depending on if you're playing around the opponent maybe having Nibiru. So you do that the first time. And then you generally go to Zexal here, or you could go to Sundayo. That is Sunya, sorry. It is the combination of 4 level 2 cards, or, the rest of its effect there you could do. The calling, again, requires you to have no monster. Again, the only issue here is, the Numeron wall does send itself off the field. So as long as you get it to the field, you send it off the field, then you do meet all the requirements, because that'll get you your network from your deck, which will allow you to play calling from your deck. And that's fantastic, guys. That's really the whole OTK right there. Everything else is me just trying to support that same deck. We got the 1-for-1 again. Send a monster from the hand to the graveyard to special summon 1 level 1 from the hand to deck. Basically, if you got 2 hand traps that say once in a turn, this is a great way to toss one to get to the motions. We do have terraforming. Maybe you have the network, the calling, and you need the network. Excuse me. So terraforming will allow us to add one of those field spells from the deck to the hand, speeding us up. I did give the Upstart Goblin. Mainly, I was at the 39 card count, and I wanted to put in Ghost Bell in Mansion because she is the Ash Blossom of the discard pile, as opposed to what Ash does from the deck. And I felt like I just needed another draw card because I wasn't going to cut any of the other hand traps down. I want to see them consistently, so Upstart Goblin got played here. I did put in, for the traps, I did put in 3 copies of Impermanence, because you can activate this from your hand and stun your opponent on, your turn 0. So target a face of monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. So this is effective or whenever. And then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution for the rest of the turn after, all other spell traps in this column are negated. However, if you control no cards, you can activate this card from the hand. So what did that mean? It means I can play it from my hand as long as I, control no cards. So my opponent's first turn when I haven't had a turn yet. Or I can set it here. And then there's my monster zone, then your monster zone, and then the 1 spell trap that you set. Since I activated it from the field, yeah, cool. I negated that monster, and that spell trap can't move. So it does work double duty. It's still pretty expensive. I struggled on whether or not I should actually put this one in here. And I said go for it. And again, Solemn Judgment is about controlling the opponent and just making sure that our effects get off. We don't want to get stopped. When a monsters would be summoned or a spell or trap activated, pay half your life, negate, and destroy. So pretty straightforward. Strikes, really helping with the monster effects. Again, if a monsters would be special summoned or a monster effect activated, pay 1,500 life points, negate, and destroy. And then one of my favorites, just Torrential Tribute. When a monsters is summoned, destroy them all. And again, you just blow up your opponent's monsters and then maybe go for your loop the second time. Or if you were failing to go off on the loop and all you drew was the anti cards, just drive them nuts. Keep blowing up the field, guys. So let's talk about the extra deck. And this is going to take a minute here too. So we do not need to know what makes these characters, but it is all 3 level 1s, which is never going to happen. So those are all 3 level 1s. Gates 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 100 just wants 2 number Xyz monsters with the same name and rank. Same name, not as easy, but again, we could do that. Also, he's a Numeron, so I just felt like I should put him in there. Sunya needs 4 level 2s, but we're going to use his other effect. And Zexel is 3 number Xyz monsters with the same rank, so that's pretty cool too. So number 1's effect cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster to detach material from this card, double the attack of all Numeron monsters you currently control until the end of the turn. So they all have this effect. They all have this effect. All 4 of them. Same effect. So what that means is number 1 attacks. Or number 4, whatever. You tell the story your way when it's your video, guys. And just know that there's one person out there like me going, why couldn't number 3 attack first? It can. You're right. Since they can't be killed by battle, at the end of the damage step, so they've already done their thing. One of them's going to attack, usually at a net loss, unless I get a magical direct attack round. At which point, maybe one of you guys substituted the one called by the grave or the single upstart, and maybe you guys put in Ragakai or Dark Hole to start off your turn. Or maybe you're working off a turn where your opponent fell into a Torrential Tribute and got whammied. But if that's the case, it's really going to hurt the opponent. So the first attack would be at 1,000. And then because of our network, we don't have to pitch material cards in order to activate the effects. So now we get to double up everybody else. So after the first attack, the other 3 are at 2Ks. 2K, you're probably not attacking at a loss anymore. You'll attack, the other 2 become 4s. Okay, if we did this on our first turn and our opponent went first, chances are pretty good we just destroyed all their monsters. So now that we have so now that we have the 4K attacks, doubles them over again. And the last one should always be considered what is the game-winning stroke, because it will be at 8,000 when it attacks. And again, I mean, if you had another Numeron, let's say you actually played the Numeron Dragon somehow, yeah, totally. Feel free. Blast them with a 1,600 point Numeron Dragon, assuming that you used its effects, and it would probably actually be much larger. So, all 4 of those guys, same effect, same character pretty much. We're going to put them over there. So, Numeron Dragon, 2 number Xyz with the same name and rank. Not terribly difficult when we start talking about Infinitrack. But still tricky. I did want to play him, so I played it at 1. It only came up a couple of times. During playtesting, it was either this or Black Wings, or this or any other deck that I was playing. It really wasn't like a grind game. Something just outright obliterated the other. So once per turn, detach material from this card. This card gains attack equal to the combined ranks of all Xyz monsters currently on the field, times 1,000 until the end of your opponent's turn, which is good, because it won't leave itself defenseless during your opponent's turn. Bad, because it's just not a permanent gain. Good, because if you just attacked with 4 of those guys and you use this effect, the combined ranks of all Xyz monsters, well, that's 5 rank 1s. It puts them at 5k, so the first attack makes them 10, 20, 40, 80,000. 80,000. So yeah, no, he's not doing bad. And again, this is like the largest amount of attack I've ever been able to generate in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was fine. It was funny. Would have been better if I would have had another character up in the thing up there, but I had to have the Infinitrack. So that's the way that the match had to work out. When this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, minimum of 1. So you could choose not to do this, or I guess you have to choose all of them then. Each player sets a spell trap from their graveyard to their field. When an opponent's monster declares an attack while this is in the graveyard, while you have no cards in your hand or field, special summon it. So he does keep coming back. And since he is a Numeron, the network means he doesn't need to pitch material to actually use his effects. So, crazy. Okay, Sunya. You can also exceed this by using number 1 Numeron Gate Echo you control as material, transferring its materials to this card. If this card is exceed summoned, banish all monsters on the field. That's a good wipe. Once per turn during the next standby phase after this card was banished, you may special summon this banished card. Then if Numeron Network is in your field zone, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the combined attack of all banished Xyz monsters. Again, this would be way better if we were playing this deck during the Xyz era and it did not exist then. This deck will still do some damage, because again, if we did a full gate, that's still... It doesn't say that we banish this materials though, right? So that's 3,000, because you'll have the 3 other gates that remain banished at minimum. So it's not terrible. I left it in. You do have a Utopic Zexal. This card's original rank is always treated as 1. You can also Xyz summon this card by discarding rank up magic normal spell and then using a Utopia you control as Xyz material, transferring materials to this card. That's fine. This card's Xyz summon cannot be negated. That's necessary. And when Xyz summoned, your opponent's card and effects cannot be activated. Okay, so he thinks he's a god card. Gains 1,000 attack and defense for every Xyz material attached to it. Okay, again, that's like 3,000 because we just did the gates. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, detach 1 Xyz material from this card. Your opponent's card and effects cannot be activated this turn. The only thing stopping this thing from being even better is, I don't know, lacking the word Numeron, so this way we wouldn't have to discard the materials. 1. I could only find room in this deck for 1 of him. So, and you guys know the extra deck. The only one I'm going to have to talk about today is going to be Mega Clops. Again, Boral Sword, he gets over things. IP Masquerade lets us mess around on their turn. Unicorn is the most powerful of the Nightmares when we're not being able to run the full package of Nightmare characters. I definitely want to rely on him. So let's just talk about the Mega Clops, alright? So, takes 3 Xyz materials, or 3 Xyz monsters, sorry, to create a 4,000 point Link monster. Yeah, that's boss level strength. This is unaffected by other monster effects except those of Xyz monsters. Cannot be destroyed by battle except with an Xyz monster. And you get to target an Xyz monster in your graveyard and 1 card your opponent controls. Special summon the monster from the graveyard and attach their monster to it as material. Think about that. I'm sorry, it just says 1 card your opponent controls. It doesn't say monster card. I guess if all you had was a field spell, I could take that too. That's terrible. That's terrible. If you do attach it. And then also for the rest of the turn, any damage your opponent takes is half, which is fine. You can also use this effect only once per turn. So this should be like one of the best boss monsters for this deck, considering, again, how fast we can spit out Xyz. The only real upsetting portion here is that we cannot do this at the same time we use the Gate Sunya, because that would be something. I do hope that you guys enjoyed this. I know that somebody's going to say it out there. Yes, this one was not budget. Yeah, and the infinite impermanence cost, what, like, those still $40 a piece, guys? But I just wanted to show you guys what what I felt was the best build for this deck right now. And to me, the best build was just a stack of telling your opponent no, and then getting your point across at the same time. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. And just one thing, you guys have a great day, okay? I'll see you guys on the next video.